I'd like to call to order the Wyndham Raymond School District Board of Directors meeting. It is August 7th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. We're in the Wyndham Town Council chambers. Mr. Howell?
Kate Brooks.
Present.
Eric Colby. Jamie Cummings.
Here.
Don Dillon. Mark Schiavone.
Here.
Pete Hensler. Anna Keeney. Kate Levier. Scott McLean.
Here.
Okay, we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda, Mr. Howell?
There were a couple of adjustments that were made to the agenda this afternoon that was different than the one that was sent out last week. It's actually a couple of housekeeping items that are leftover holdovers from our June meeting where we approved, remember, all the different leases. There was a second component in our housekeeping in which the board needs to actually authorize the new superintendent the ability to actually pay for those items. So you authorize the contracts, so the contracts can move forward, and we need to authorize the new superintendent to be able to actually pay the bills. So there's some motions that are there and some language. We only have to address the motion. We don't have to address the full language that's attached.
Okay, thank you. It's now time for public input, an opportunity for the public to comment on items not on the agenda. Okay. Appointments. Could I have a motion for appointments, please?
I move to approve the following appointments for the 2019-2020 school year. Jennifer McVeigh, school psychologist, William High School, CAGS 10, salary $60,598. Kimberly Fournier, social worker, Manchester School, MA 18, salary $63,812. Elizabeth Smith, 2/5 grade 2 teacher, Wyndham Primary School, bachelor 0 steps, salary $15,349. Chris DiBernardo, math teacher, Wyndham High School, bachelor step 4, salary $43,473. Christopher Malone, physical science teacher, Wyndham High School, bachelor's step 3, salary $42,023. Charles Martin, health teacher, Jordan Small Middle School, CAG step 35, salary $77,698. Jennifer Smith, kindergarten teacher, 1 year. RES, master's step 7, salary $51,362. Nicholas Jones, grade 6 teacher, 1 year. Wyndham Middle School, master, step 11, salary $57,162. Hillary McHugh, art teacher, Wyndham Middle School, master, step 6, salary $49,912.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any board discussion?
Just a quick question, if I may. I'm sorry, CAGS, what does that stand for?
Certificate of Advanced Graduate Study.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor? No opposed. The motion carries. Okay, student handbooks.
If I may.
Yes. Oh, yes, you may.
It's recommended by our legal firm that the board take the time to review our handbooks, to review them for completeness, and also review them to make sure the policies that are there. And then at one of their board meetings, preferably prior to the start of school, to then be able to approve those handbooks and then go through. I've included in your packet what Drummond Woodson gives us for suggested student handbook content items. And they give a list, and they're within their required topics, and then topics that might be of interest, or best way to put it are kind of the nuts and bolts things of running the school. And this list was given to the school administrators back beginning of June. And they've each taken the time to update their handbooks to make sure that we have the required policies that are in there, and then to be able to pass it on to you. The one exception to this is the Katahdin program, which is a program subcomponent of Wyndham High School. They have historically had a handbook, which is more of a student handbook for that particular program. If you remember correctly, we have a new director that's coming on board with the Katahdin program, who basically had been here just a couple of weeks when the ask was made to do some handbook updates. So Katahdin will continue to update their handbook so that everything matches and that everything as far as the required policies and things that are in there. In addition, before we do the board comment, Christine, Bertney, and I have also been working on a district-wide handbook that we would then publish on our website to make sure that we have some consistent information from everything from cancellations to food service to how to best contact, what do you do when you have a complaint or an issue as a general why. And so that's in draft form, and when Christine gets back, we'll get that shared with the board, and then we'll be looking to publish that on the district portion of the website for people to have. It's a pretty comprehensive handbook, and I think parents will appreciate just having kind of a one-stop, especially if they have kids that go across multiple buildings.
Okay, thank you. Marge?
I think we already had this conversation, but the ones that we had the links to are not finished yet, right? Only because of, as I had brought up to you before, the payment for lunch is not equal across, and you said that hadn't been updated yet.
Correct, and it will be updated in the upcoming weeks because there will be new lunches going up to reflect the increase in food costs. It's not going up significantly, but Jeannie's in the midst of setting that, getting those amounts approved by the state, which will then go into handbooks. One thing that's nice about our handbooks, and our handbooks have a statement that handbooks can be changed at any time, if they need to be updated, that we reserve the right to do that. They're all on our website and Google-based, so as long as that parent document is fixed, the website automatically updates. So we'll take care of the food service piece. The consistent part, and especially needs to get a little bit more specific as we get older in the grades, is the policy pieces. And specifically the policies in which the board does on occasion see students for transgressions or other issues that arise. But those are clear.
I just have a quick question, and I'm going to assume that this is already taken care of, but where they do have a required topic of tobacco, are we also including vaping and nicotine there?
We are applicable within each of these. We're referencing the policy. The policy does have the electronic versions that are written in there, and so it would be connected back to that. Whether or not every handbook has it specifically right now says that every to a Juul or other devices are changing, but as long as they're referring back to the policy.
Or even just putting in the language of nicotine instead of tobacco would be good too. That would cover it.
Does Manchester has out hard copies? I'm just considering changes because that's already printed, correct?
Manchester does do a hard copy in which they give to students, but their website is the one that we're reflecting, and that goes out in June to go to the printers.
No, I realize that.
And most buildings, most buildings are no longer doing the hardcover because of cost.
Right. Is that the only building, I wonder? Do you know? It doesn't matter.
I don't know. Just a second.
That was going to be my same one. Is it other buildings doing it, or is it just that one?
I was very glad to see the links that they put. This is the reason for what the law or the rule that we have, and the link was to our policy, and that I liked that because it was across the board, and I really liked it because it gave parents an avenue to look at the policy, which they might not have taken otherwise. So I was very appreciative of that. Any other comments or discussion? Okay, thank you. It was great to have these here, so I really appreciate that. And I especially appreciate the information from Dublin Woodson. And go, Kate, for schooling the law firm that it should be nicotine and not tobacco. Yes.
Trying to change the language.
There you go.
This is a list that's been around for a while, and it's been at least a year, if not two, since the board has gone through the process of doing this. So it's a good reminder to all of us to make sure that our handbooks are updated and that they become more similar, especially as we look at asbestos.
Right, I agree. Okay, could I have a motion to approve the second reading of policy DJ, bidding purchasing? Whoops, I just said it. I move to approve the second reading of policy DJ, bidding purchasing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any board discussion? None? Do you have anything?
I'll just remind them, if anyone's listening out there tonight, and maybe that they are, the substantive changes to this policy. At one point in our purchasing policy, $2,500 was a minimal threshold for 3 written quotes. It's now gone up to 10,000. Part of that is being, in some instances, parts are costing that much, and the amount of time that it would actually take to get 3 quotes, we would actually have had that part already in.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been run through the finance committee. It's been run by our accounting firm. They agree with the dollar amount thresholds that are in there. The other major piece to this was a recommendation by our attorneys, which is giving some flexibility to forgo the bidding process if we are in a time crunch. And the board is well aware of the fact that we have a 7-week construction period, and there are times when the work just needs to be done, and we have a qualified contractor. So the public knows is that the superintendent is not authorized to go off on his or her own to do this. They must get board approval in order to be able to do that. The board must be informed why we're not going out to bid the project.
And just a quick question. Under A, is that number right, the 250,000? Because it says certain school building construction, whatever repairs, over 250. So if it's under $250,000, you don't have to go for bid?
This is, let's say, state requirement.
Okay.
If anything over 250 has to go automatically go to bid choice. Your local policy has 75.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That confused me. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? All right. Could I have a motion for the next one, please?
I move that the vote entitled Vote to Authorize Lease Purchase of School Vans in principal amount of up to $94,115 be adopted in form presented to this meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any board discussion?
Just for the board, we have a companion sheet that goes along with this. And the companion sheet has all of the required information for the IRS in order to be able to process the leases that you approved back in June. So this is one of those housekeeping items. It also gives me the authority to then execute the leases that you have authorized. The one good thing that's happened this summer is that the Fed has actually reduced the prime lending rate. And we did see a slight reduction in our lease percentages, which has then lowered the payments of what's been approved. So a little bit of good news.
That's great.
So is your job title on this supposed to be what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm secretary of the board.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
I know.
Technicalities.
So we don't have to do it again.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Okay.
I move that the vote entitled Vote to Authorize Lease Purchases of School Buses in aggregate principal amount of up to $245,140 be adopted in form presented to this meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any board discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
I move that the vote entitled Vote to Authorize Lease Purchase of Apple iPads and Related Technology in Principal Amount of up to $95,358.52 be adopted in form presented to this meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any board discussion? Marge?
Just a quick question. I know we've already approved these and we're going over you being able to sign off on them, whatever, but these have all been ordered, right?
These have all been ordered.
Okay, I didn't want school to start without.
Yeah,
And,
no.
and it's not $95,000 in iPads. If I remember correctly, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $35,000. The remaining portion is that you would approve purchases to upgrade servers.
Yeah,
and
right.
that's the other part.
Yep.
That's there.
Thank you.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Okay, I move that the vote entitled, I'm just going to keep doing it.
Okay.
I move that the vote entitled Vote to Authorize Lease Purchase of Boilers to be installed at Wyndham High School in principal amount of up to $240,267 be adopted in form presented at this meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any board discussion? All those in favor?
Oh. I was wondering if you say and it carried. I move that the vote entitled Vote to Authorize Lease Purchase of Boilers to be installed at Jordan Small Middle School in principal amount of up to $130,000 be adopted in form presented to this meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any board discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you. It's official.
Okay. Field trip and volunteer policies.
I'll just introduce Mr. Howell by saying that I went through my notes today and we started talking about a field trip policy a year ago, September. And as you might recall in previous conversations, we do not have a RSU 14 field trip policy. Both of the, prior to consolidation, each separate district did have them, but we don't, and obviously we feel that this is really a critical policy that needs to get onto the books. So the volunteer policy is still an evolution, but that will briefly be discussed, but obviously volunteers and field trips go hand in hand, so we'll touch upon that, but I won't touch upon it. Mr. Howell will touch upon it, so take it away.
Sure. So you should have in front of you Liberty and version 6. A couple of adjustments that were made on school-sponsored trips. And this is version right. We did not have an RSU 14 combined policy. And much of what triggered a lot of the conversation was the tragedy that was experienced in Lewiston a year ago May, where a student drowned on a field trip. And, so obviously all of us looked at our policies as we read. Also, so that you know, this version of the policy was embedded by the administrators. Everyone who works in our adventure-based programs at the high school and at the middle level, and also with our DARE officer who does some adventure-based trips, even though it's underneath the umbrella of the police department, but just to get some input pieces. So I'm just going to walk through just some of the major changes and things that have been different from where we've been at. So first of all, in A, this really specifies that in-state trips, out-of-state trips, foreign exchange trips, and any international cultural trips are underneath the umbrella of RSU 14. And that's important for liability reasons. But also is important that anything that has our name on it will follow all of our policies and procedures while those trips are happening. Going down under general policy guidelines, the chaperone or the student-to-teacher ratios stayed pretty consistent from where we were in our prior policy for being 5-to-1, K-to-1, for grades 2 to 3, 6-to-1, 12-to-1, and grades 4 to 8. High school was at a 10-to-1, and we did increase that to a 15-to-1. Given the nature of the trips, given the age of the students, we feel comfortable recommending that. So being a little bit higher than what we've been in the past. I'm going to just move down as I go down through number 4. Any trip that has our name on it has to have a trip leader that's run by RSU 14 so that we make sure that we know what's going on and that policies are followed. The next segment there, 5 through 8, this is a lot of the water safety stuff, which none of the previous policies, whether they be Wyndham and Raymond, has anything to do or had any mention of water. So our kayaking, whitewater, pond fishing, canoeing, any of those other pieces that we do as part of our classroom program all follow the requirements that are here. You will notice that if there's a commercial Coast Guard vessel that does not require an approved life jacket, so this would be middle school dance cruise. Kids are not required to wear life jackets during the middle school dance cruise.
That'd be a rough dance.
Yeah.
No, it might actually be.
I think some parents might like that. Yeah. What are you wearing tonight?
Orange. It goes with orange. We also removed out of the policy, which has been a request of the RSUs, that we do not allow private boats within our field trip policy. So anything has to be a commercially inspected vehicle that's been approved by the Coast Guard with the number of life jackets. And those are required vessels. 9 was a significant discussion, which is swimming activities. And we are discouraging swimming activities unless there is a certified lifeguard present or a certified group that is then responsible. And so if we have kids go on and really Project Graduation is not a great example, and I haven't approved any swimming activities as of late, but if we were to have one, there needs to be an adequate number of certified lifeguards that are there with another group that's taking responsibility for that. We will not be providing lifeguards as RSU 14 for an event. That's not within the policy. And our recommendation is ankle to knee for students in the water. Unless they are participating in, and this is a piece that we talked about with our adventure folks, one of the things that you learn in kayaking is that the kayak falls over. What happens and how do you deal with that? However, in that situation, you are wearing a life jacket. It is not a swimming activity. It is a kayaking activity.
It's a safety activity.
And they were fine for that. And then 10, 11, 12 were already previously in the policy. One thing that we really wanted to stress is that kids should not be required to go on a field trip unless it's part of a club activity, competition, or something else. But there should not be a requirement. And we also, in letter B here, we realized that extra things for school can be a burden to families. And so we want people, as they're planning trips, to also plan ways that if a kid cannot afford to go, if that field trip is so important that we're taking school time for it, we need to figure out a way for that student to be able to attend. Right now, there's some money in the budget. There's very little to help support that, but most of the time it's handled individually at the building level for students to be able to do that. Going into Part C, your policies, does not matter if you're in school grounds or if you're on a field trip, the policies of the RSU 14 board all stand and they will be followed. And students who violate those policies may risk participation in future trips if it's shown that they cannot be able to participate in that. And then where applicable, and this gets to the bottom of that paragraph under student eligibility, we may need to contact parents to come pick kids up if there's difficulties on a trip. And depending upon how far away you are from home, that can be a little bit more difficult. Going into D, trip requests, this is pretty consistent with what we already had for policies and procedures as far as things that are required for the field trip. One thing that we really stressed and spent some time on is number 15. Any accommodations needed for students with special needs, because students need to be able to access the program regardless of their challenges that they might have. We did spend some time with Lisa Garno on how do we best support that to make sure that all students are having access to our trips. Some new components. Travel must be under building administrator approval. really limiting our trips to within a 200-mile range and trying to not have overnight stays where possible. So to the extent that we can get this done in a single day, we're really supporting that. Anything that requires an overnight trip needs to be approved by the superintendent, needs to be approved in advance. And we decided in policy that if there's trips that are happening out of the country, that the superintendent will inform the board. And I think probably the best vehicle to do that would be through the superintendent's notes, letting you know that the trip is out of the country. So parent approval, spent some time on the language with this. Specifically, we want to make sure parents have adequate notice. Also that parents are signing off and they know what their kids are doing prior to signing off. We did give a little bit of an out for one spot, which is within the Katahdin program, and then also within some of our venture-based program, kids are doing the same activity over and over and over again, and allowing those particular activities to have one sign-off that lists that activity they're going to be doing again and the dates. So that they're not chasing themselves doing participation or permission forms at any given time. Okay, and then we'll kind of go quickly through some of this.
Fine.
Obviously, safety is the most important, and we're putting a requirement in policy that there is a meeting with parents and students ahead of time so that everybody knows the rules, everybody knows all the safety pieces. And then also within everyone's planning that if something happens where we can't run the trip because of weather, that there's other plans put into place. Part 2, we consulted our transportation policy, and students are not approved to drive other students to, from, or during school-sponsored field trips. And then in-state trips, school bus or licensed carrier. Our school buses, it's difficult for them to cross state lines, and the reason behind this is that we have to buy fuel stickers for when we cross a state line. It does not financially make sense to us.
I didn't know that.
It's called an IFTA sticker.
Yeah, to have to do that. So our buses generally stay within those state lines. We use out-of-state or other buses or other licensed carriers, and parents not transporting other students on school-sponsored trips.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
On the all in-state trips, blah, 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 it says school bus or licensed carrier. What's the licensed carrier?
If you were to go to VIP and have one of their coaches chartered.
Okay. Now, what about, God, can't remember its name. At the high school, who does all the stuff with the kids?
Jeffrey.
Thank you. I can picture him. Now, he uses his own vehicle, doesn't he?
No, we have a vehicle that
The one we bought.
We purchased.
But is that counted as a?
That does count because that particular individual and anyone who uses that goes through a vetting process with a license check. They're also approved by our insurance company, and they're one of our employees driving for us, so they go through. They're then approved to be able to do that.
So it's kind of counted as a school bus?
It's not a
or
school
a licensed
bus.
carrier?
That particular vehicle is I think I told you this once before, it's a one of a kind.
Yes, you did tell me that.
You're not allowed to transport more than 10 people. Even if you have a 12-passenger van, you cannot have more than 10 seats. It could not have been built with more than 10 seats to not be called a school bus. And so that meets all federal requirements and is not considered to be a school bus.
But they're the exception too.
But they
That's
would
why
be the exception. I'll give you a great example of this.
Got it.
We instituted this policy already. Football team traditionally does a trip down to the University of Connecticut for a football camp. In the past, not in the present, but in the past, parents would carpool with students and multiple. This year, we contracted with First Student, and it was about $1,200. It was not for all 50 members to ride together on a school bus to Connecticut, and then he went and picked them up, and that then reduced the liability of parents, it reduced the liability of the district, and that will be the way that we'll do those types of trips moving forward.
Cool. Great. Thanks.
So, moving on here, supervision of students. Obviously, everyone needs to be supervised, and if particular trips require a greater student to chaperone ratio, it's up to the principals. Their administrators can go ahead and do that. There's also a level in here, and this is where Mrs. Brick started talking about the connection to the volunteer policy. Chaperones must be approved by the district. And here's what we're working on with policy is that anybody who has any possibility of having any alone time with a student will go through a background check.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who's a parent who is just going on a trip as a kind thing with their own kid, but is not going to be alone with students, we can go through our volunteer policy where at least we have their name, number, we know their background. But anyone who has any possibility of any time, any alone time, and so it might even be groups are going to go off to do something, they're going to need to go through a background check, and that will be reflected in the volunteer policy. So that's definitely one place where they're going to go ahead and mingle with one another. The other portion that we added to this policy is that any overnight groups, it is up to the building administrator or the trip leader in the case of some of our EF tours, overnight trips, to make sure that security is provided at night for students. So whether it be they need to pay for a security guard to be present, or someone from the group needs to spend the night outside in the rooms to make sure that our students are safe. We added overnight trips, that there is an opportunity for an orientation with parents, and also students review guidelines. Mixed groups, male-female, having mixed groups of male-female adult supervisors where possible. For accommodations, unless it's an individual's own student, it sounds like it's an obvious thing, but chaperones should not be sharing rooms with students. Mm-hmm. We had a lengthy discussion where there have been occasions on camping trips where kids have shown up in a tent in the middle of the night, having an anxiety attack or other thing, where it's not a sleeping arrangement, and Todd's going to work through a process and a protocol. If there really are overnight campers, that if that does happen, that we bring another adult in and make sure that appropriate professional lines are maintained. But there are occasions based upon students and issues, or an event happens or something, but that everyone's aware that we do not have a single adult or a single student anywhere alone. I think our staff is pretty well aware of what that opens them up to. However, there are occasions where kid shows up and it's up to that staff member to find someone to help out, especially in an overnight trip. Moving on here, any sort of accidents would follow our normal accident procedure. People need to report immediately. We've included in the policy private homes, that we're now eliminating private homes as places for field trips that take place. Insurance, trips are covered by the school's liability insurance. We're also going to encourage all of our overnight trips to make sure that they're purchasing trip insurance. And a great example of that is, think about this past spring, where we had the yellow shirt riots that were happening in Paris. We had 80,000 people out in the streets, and if we had a trip that was scheduled to go to Paris at the time, most likely would not have allowed students to go to that, or ask them to make alternate arrangements. Most of the larger trip organizations, such as EF Tours, which I think is the one that predominantly high school uses, provides that already. But this allows the superintendent to cancel trips if there's threats of violence, if there's threats of disease, or other things, that whatever area, and that decision is final. Obviously, we're going to communicate with the board on that, but we're not going to put kids into harm's way. And I love the last sentence, which is actually in that section, which is the top of your last page. Only possible students be kept away from protesters and demonstrators. And we all saw in the news this year where a tour group somewhere out of the south had an altercation at the Lincoln Memorial, and all of a sudden became national news. And we want kids to go on an educational field trip. We don't want them to be the education from other field trips.
Can I ask a quick question? Number 5, private homes.
Yes.
Does that include Airbnbs or homes that are rental units?
If they have carry their own liability insurance, then we would consider that to be a rental and not a private home of a staff member.
Okay. All right.
And it's great that you bring that up. Our softball team is looking at an overnight trip to Pigeon Forge in
Tennessee. Know it well.
Because it's far less expensive to go to Pigeon Forge than it is to go and do the traditional Florida softball trip. They're looking at renting a house that sleeps 28. And what's nice about it, there's no pool. And there aren't any other houses around it. And it's very well protected with a gate. So everyone is in one spot and they're contained and has a mix of male and female chaperones that go along with it. But that's a case where someone's renting out and they're carrying their own liability.
Okay.
With that particular property.
Is there going to be a minimum liability for a case like this?
That's a great question, and I'm going to take your question, Scott, and I will contact our insurance carrier and just get a recommendation. Typically, we require $1 million.
Airbnb does $1 million.
Airbnb does $1 million? Okay.
Let me do that, and I think it'd actually be a good thing to add on the policy.
Yep.
Go ahead and do that.
There might not be any danger of the pools, but they could roll down a mountain at Pigeon Forge. Everything is at a slant.
That's okay. That's okay, as long as they're contained.
Yeah.
And they all roll down together.
Yeah, the mountains are really tall.
And at some point if you're in their office, I'll share a picture. It's an amazing place and very reasonable. Very reasonable. The last piece here is that we know on occasion that parents might organize a trip for their kids to go on. If it does not go through our approval process and it is basically is not organized by one of our staff members, it is not an our school team sponsored trip. And this portion of the policy is really to say to people, you're on your own if you choose to organize such a trip. We also ask that if something like that happens that they avoid school time. And it might be a travel soccer team, go somewhere. It's not a school-sponsored trip. We're not organizing it. It's not part of our connection. The original field trip policy was maybe half a page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good work.
So you can see kind of why it's gone through 6 versions. So Scott, I will add that as version 7.
Okay.
The insurance piece.
One more question, if I may. So, athletic trips, are they considered student trips? They are.
For the purposes of our policy, and I had a chance to talk to Rich about this, Rich would prefer that we follow this.
Okay.
I did come across when we were doing research for policy that there were ones that were for athletic trips and for non-athletic school-sanctioned trips. Most of Rich's trips, as you know, I mean, Rich is doing hundreds of trips a year that are day trips.
Right.
There are 3 or 4 trips a year which are overnight ones. Rich would prefer to follow this because all applicable policies are still in place for all those different trips.
Okay.
So we're not going to delineate between the two.
Okay.
Anybody else have a question? Okay. And we will have first reading. Yeah. Okay.
That's great. There was a lot of thought that went into this, so.
Whew, yeah, there was.
Long overdue, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that a tragedy would bring forth, but I think we'll be in great shape now.
But I think it does for all of us.
I still think the 8th graders should wear life jackets. So. Only because mine's going this year. So.
And we would have to let her know it was your idea.
You wanted me to stay on the board.
Okay. Could I have a motion about the...
I move to approve the minutes of the June 19, 2019 meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any board discussion? Pete's not here to tell us. So
He wouldn't know anyway. He wasn't there.
no, but he reads them.
All the math works out, though.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay. Committee reports. Finance? Nothing? Okay. Facilities?
Hasn't met yet.
Policy?
We're gonna meet.
Okay.
We're gonna meet next week.
Kate, do you have anything to report?
The withdrawal committee also took the summer off, which is much appreciated, and we will be meeting in September. And I don't know
The
the
15th.
okay, thank you. I knew you. I should have known. That no, you're so good. September 13th.
Okay. All right.
Do you know if they asked for an extension?
I do not know.
Okay. Marge, do you?
None of
Nobody
has met yet.
Okay. Well, this was a good time to have committee
Isn't
reports. Okay, it's board roundtable time. The opportunity for a board member to address the community. So, Scott, would you like to address the community?
Yeah, so just a real quick statement about myself. After very careful and hard deliberating with myself over the last month, I am going to seek re-election.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you weren't.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yay.
So
Excited.
Fantastic.
there was a reporter that was really kind of chasing after me for a while, and I just kind of kept ducking her. So, but yeah, I figured I would let you guys know that. So
Thank you.
great.
I'm
Thank you
very
very
happy to hear
Yep.
that. Very happy.
Don't take a name tag.
that's it, man.
I can do that. That's great.
That is like,
Along those lines, we do need people to run for seats. We have some upcoming seats. So you're someone who is running, but you need to take out papers
Yeah.
to do that. And the papers, Marge,
they're out.
they're out.
They're out. I know because I've taken papers out already.
Okay.
Okay,
Because I'm running
I'll go
too.
see Terry. I'll see if I can't try and catch base with her this coming week.
So if someone wants to run for the school board position in Wyndham, they should see Terry at the town office. At the district office, because she has the papers. And they have to be turned in by
September 6th, I think it was.
September
Or they can see the
6th.
memorial here
Okay.
in the town office, and she has the papers as well.
Okay.
And there are two
And
3-year positions and one 2-year. Correct?
there are. That's correct.
Right.
And just a slight recommendation. When people take their papers out and they get them signed, if you stop by and see, before you turn into Terry, stop by and see Linda. She will go through it for you to make sure that you have registered voters there. So you're kind of like getting ahead of the game, because Terry waits to get them all back before she brings them up to Linda.
I see.
So you'll feel a lot safer and more confident that you have the 25 required signatures
Right.
if you have Linda, and she'll gladly, I know because she does mine, she'll verify.
Oh,
for you.
that's great. Thank you. Great. Anybody else have anything to say? Or
It's been a very hot summer. I hope everybody's had like a really great summer. My garden has not done well. It's been really too hot. I have not done well because my garden got away from me, and once the grass came, darn it.
Is it?
That was it. But so I hope everybody had a great summer.
Thank you.
Nothing? I don't have anything.
Got nothing.
I just have a couple things. First of all, it's been a busy summer at central office with some new hires, and then also quite a bit of construction going on in the district. I'll also put a plug out there. Right now, our biggest need, hiring-wise, are tech. We still do have some openings and still doing some interviewing. So if there's anybody who's watching who would like to have a school schedule and has the qualifications to meet for NetTech 3, we'd love for you to apply and work with our students here in our support team. So that seems to be the one that's kind of the greatest concern at the moment. We have a little bit of time. We're certainly not at the 80 number that Lewiston reported in the paper this week, but we we are in need of some ed tech, so we'll continue to do that. Just want to thank Bill Hansen and the custodians. The buildings right now, you can start to see the shine really coming out in a number of different places, but they have been juggling a number of projects across the district. Everything right now is on schedule. The primary school portable was delivered yesterday. Roof sections were connected today. There was some great progress that's going on. And we'll look to take the facilities committee and board members a chance to see everything that's going on across the district so that they can do that. But our custodians, as always, have done an amazing job of making sure that the buildings are ready to go for the kids. Our auditors are here this week, and just so that everyone's clear, it looks like we're going to finish preliminary the year end rate about even, without a surplus, but obviously not in the negative. And the board knows we had some budget challenges over last year. So that's some good news, and that's also, if you remember correctly, with 1.2 million to reduce taxation, an additional 650,000 towards capital projects, all being paid for. So looks like we're going to end up even, which is
that's terrific.
The auditors will be here probably 1st of November to give their audit report and any findings they have. But thank you to Stacy and the business staff who were able to do that. Pre-season for our students is not next week, but it's a week after. So that's one of those kind of signs that school's ramping up again. It's been nice. This is kind of that hands-off period for students where they can go out and do something other than athletics, even though I've seen out there captain's practices and other things with kids quite excited about getting into that. Also, just wanted to kind of quickly address or kind of close the loop. We had a parent who came to us in March to talk about the eligibility policy and middle school eligibility. It's been reviewed by our attorney. It's been reviewed by DOE. The policy is legal. It does fall to pieces. However, with all that in mind, we do realize that there's some clarifications that we need to make within the policy. And so policy, we'll be revisiting that. We've had some suggestions that we can work through John Woodson to make it a little cleaner, have it make a little bit more sense. So we'll be working through that, and we'll have the opportunity for the board to then weigh in on those changes so that you can see what some of those recommendations are. But I think it's important for all of us to kind of close the loop on those parts. And then lastly, just want to say Christine Frost-Burtonay, who's joined as assistant superintendent. She's been having the opportunity to spend some time in Scotland and Wales and England. And she will be at our next board meeting. And, has really done a great job the time that she's been in the district, assuming the duties of assistant superintendent, and we'll spend some time at next meeting kind of talking about how the two of us are going to divvy out our duties. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick question, because I know we've always had a shortage of substitute teachers, and the only reason I ask this is because I have a lot of ex-teachers who from everywhere that volunteer on some of the programs that I'm on. And they've been asking me, and I said, as far as I know, and I said, I will get back to you. Are we still light on substitute teachers?
Oh gosh.
Yes, there's always.
That's what I thought, but I figured I'd ask.
I can answer that question.
I didn't want to just go out and I know when the principal of the school is subbing a room, we are short.
Yeah, well, sure.
But anyway, I will go back and I will relay that to these wonderful people who are very interested.
And I'll also add some of the shortage with ed techs is that we've hired some of them to assume some of our teaching positions.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And so that then creates a shortage. We'll continue to look, but we'll be sending out some additional announcements and hopefully getting some more applicants. But I tell you, it's not an issue that is unique to our C14. This is unique to the state of Maine right now, filling those positions. So we're working to do that.
We've talked about kindergarten numbers. Sure. If you could give us an update.
As of yesterday.
Okay.
Yesterday we were at 223. Wow. Incoming kindergartners. And right now, according to Diana,
keeps going up.
We have the class sizes ranging from 19 to 16.
It was 270.
Some of the ones of 19 include students who may access the classroom for part of the day and then be in other places during the day to make sure that the numbers work. So she was in the process yesterday of finalizing class arrangements. The letters are going out because I think, as I may have shared with the board, the last thing we want to do is send out the name of the kindergarten teacher for a student and then say, I'm sorry, we need to change that. So that's one. We've been a little bit later than usual, but really that's just because we want to make sure that when we get that, we get it right. We don't want to be creating classrooms at the last minute. So they're in the midst of doing that. And then for next meeting, we'll run the total enrollment numbers per building so that you can see that.
Did you say 223? I'm sorry.
223 as of yesterday. At 10:38 a.m.
So how many is that? Did we end up with 11?
12.
Okay, so we have 12.
12 classrooms.
12 classrooms. I'm not a teacher. What's that break down to?
It's okay. I know enrollment's tough, but it's a good problem to have when the numbers are going up.
Yeah.
We don't have declining enrollments at the moment.
No, they're building like mad. I mean, everywhere you go.
I know, everywhere.
Oh my God.
Raymond too.
And as soon as they go up, someone moves in.
Are the open houses established, the dates for those?
We've not, principal been working on it. We've not sent out the collection of dates, but we'll get those for the next meeting.
Okay.
And the RES playground extravaganza is
That was September 5th, I thought?
September 5th.
The grand opening of the playground at the RES.
So there's a grand opening happening with the kids. That's actually something to talk about.
Okay, well, we can talk about that. It's not.
Are they going to get to use it this year?
Yes.
Ah, cool.
I was there on Monday and it looks great.
Oh, good.
That's wonderful.
It
Excellent.
looks great. They're ready to get some of the fences down. And,
Good.
it's amazing how much play space, and the same thing now at Wyndham Primary School. Similar size space has now been added out back. We get a chance to see. However, much like Raymond Elementary,
Have to wait.
to grow.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough for kids to be looking through the fence and seeing new play fields.
Right. That you can't go on.
Sorry.
Yeah, but it'll be pretty solid when you get there, right? Great. Could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? We are adjourned.